Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Deez and this is my workshop. Today I wanted to cover a top 5 video on the top 5 things I learned after 1 year of using a mini lathe. There's no particular order of these are just the top 5 things that I've learned over the last year working with this mini lathe and never having worked in a machine shop or have the tools to begin with. So without delaying it any further, let's get started. Number 1, money. Money is one of the top 5 things that you're gonna, that seems very vague, but you're gonna really want to consider. Whatever you spend on this lathe, you're gonna double it in tooling, I guarantee it. Unless you have tooling from something previous, which I doubt you will unless you had a mini lathe before and you just bought another mini lathe that took many of the same accessories and tooling, you're going to want to spend at least $1,000 US. Just you're going to need to. You're not going to have all the tooling, the measurement, metrology, measuring tools, scales, different chucks, 4-jaw, collet chucks, carbide tips, quick change tool posts, steady rest, tailstock accessories, drill chucks for the tailstock, whatever Morse tapers you need. It doesn't matter. Whatever lathe you get is going to need some additional accessories, tooling, and in addition, raw work materials. You're going to need work pieces. You're going to need turning. You're going to need tubing or round stock in order to create projects. Get out there in the garage. You want to be able to look at what you have and just get started on something. Be creative. If you don't have any of that stock, it makes that creative process a little more difficult. So have some product and stock on hand, so when you get out in the shop, you're not sure what you want to do, you can grab some material, chuck it up, and just start turning. So money. Whatever you spend on the lathe, let's just call it $1,000. You're going to want another couple thousand for tooling. Eventually. At least $1,000, but you're going to, over the course of 5 years, you'll easily spend a couple grand in tooling. But you get to keep all the tools. You get a lot of cool stuff. So that's number 1, money. Number 2, nearly all mini lathes that you purchase from all the usual places, whether it's Amazon, eBay, you name it, the cheap ones, even the websites that are ran by these outfits, it doesn't matter. They're all going to have quality issues. They're going to have problems. They're going to range from annoying problems, cosmetic things, to casting problems in the actual latheways, beds, the compound, you name it. There'll be problems that won't really affect how the machine works. There will be problems that will affect how the machine works. Gib issues, which I had. Some people's lathe beds were actually warped or weren't ground properly. Some of those people had to send them back. There's just going to be quality issues. Fortunately for me, I knew it was going to be a 50-50 shot. I got one that had quality issues, whether, from a lot of it's annoying. It's just quality cosmetic stuff. But there was also some functional issues that I had to repair. I've got the thing running pretty well right now for my needs. But I know through communicating through this channel with other people, there's some people that had to return them. They were just unusable. Their lathe beds were warped. They weren't ground properly. Nothing would move right. So keep that in mind. The name brands, what I've learned, and none of this is factual. I don't work for any of these organizations, but what I've learned is I think all of these parts are made in the same Chinese factory, 1 or 2 different Chinese factories. It could be SIG, it could be Vevor. On Amazon, if you look, there's Boberon, there's Best Equip. They're all sold by the same people. When you communicate on Amazon with Vevor or Best Equip or Boberon, the same fictitious people, Christina was one of the names. This is not Christina. I can guarantee you that's not her real name. but the same people are running these sites on Amazon. They may say that they are not affiliated, but they're all the same. They're all selling the same product. But that tells me is all of these things are made with a little different paint job, maybe a different logo of a brand name brand. But I think they're all made out of parts from these other factories. I watched a video from Keith Rucker, and he bought a Vevor, I think it was a welding table, like a rotary table. Anyway, he was talking about Vevor, and I think he's right. I think what they do is they slap a random name on these parts. So I think what happens is the factory makes parts for the name brand outfits like Precision Matthews, Grizzly, Little Machine Shop, Sig maybe. Some of these places that actually are sort of trusted, and I think they get the quality parts. They can go through and they can return, so they can say, nope, that doesn't cut the mustard. Get that junk out of here. We're going to make a quality product and sell it. And then their prices reflect that. I think what happens is the castings that don't meet any quality standards, the parts, the components that have chips and dings and cracks in them, the castings got holes in them and they just fill it with body filler. They just have bins of this stuff that's not quality. And they slap these things together and they sell them in, I think what Keith said is in the US, I think he's right. To sell this stuff in the US, you have to have a name. You have to have a brand name. So they make stuff up. What does Vevor mean? It doesn't mean anything. What does best equip, not equipped? What's best equip mean? It doesn't mean anything. It just means that's the name of the product that they're selling. What was the other one? The Boberon. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. But that's what they're selling these under. So keep in mind that any of these that you buy are going to have issues. Just looking online and reading other videos out there, people have shared their experiences. They're all in the same boat. They're running into the same issues. So it's hit and miss. I took a chance. It worked out for me. A lot of people took a chance, and it works out for them. They understand that it's all about trying to get into this at a reasonable price point in order to get started. That's what I wanted, and it worked out for me. So because it worked out, I can't say don't try it. But I do want to say have a backup plan. If you're going to buy one of these, buy it from a place that you can return it. I have had these folks reply to me with a couple issues, and they monetarily refunded some money to help cover the cost of a couple parts that I replaced. So I can't even badmouth them from that perspective, but I can't say that it's the best customer service experience of my life. But keep that in mind. I did buy it from Amazon because I wanted to have a return path. If there was something wrong, I was going to say, get this thing out of here. Free shipping too. So that takes me to number 3. So number 3, if money isn't important or isn't as important, and you're well-to-do or you're well off, you're like, I just want to get in the hobby. Pick a trusted name. Don't go with one of these, because these will have problems. I'm not going to say that the trusted names won't have problems, but you got a company to stand behind them. The ones that I would pick if I bought another one, number one, I would want some gears, quick change gears where I can change the gearing for threading without actually disassembling the gearing and putting different gears in. It's just messy, greasy. I don't like doing that, but at least I can do that. But if you get one that has the gears where you can shift and change with levers, that would be great. But I would pick a Precision Matthews, maybe a Grizzly, over one of these. A Little Machine Shop, perhaps. At least they're available. I'm sure that they're buying the products, the components from the same factory. But again, I believe, this is just my opinion, I believe these better name brands or these better companies go through the product, make sure it's quality before they crate it up and ship it to your door. That's my opinion on how that works. So that covers 1 through 3. Money, Nearly every one of these is going to have problems. Make sure you know that if you're going to get into one of these. And number 3, spend extra money if you can and get something a little bit better if it's within your budget. Just consider that. An addendum to that, I know a lot of people are going to say, they commented on my videos, you should get an old South Bend and restore it and this and that. I didn't want to deal with pulleys and belts, and I wanted the variable speed. I wanted something new delivered to my door. We don't have a whole lot of small machine shops around here where we live or anything like that. It was going to be hard for me to find something like that. And besides, I don't have the workshop space for a very large lathe, although it would be really cool to have. So just a little note. Some people are going to say you should buy an old one and restore it and just get something quality, but hey, this is what I went with. All right, number 4. Be prepared to learn. If you're new to this or getting into this, there's a whole slew of things that you can't even think of right now. If you're watching this and you're on the fence, like I was a year ago, you're gonna have to learn a lot, and it's gonna range from like things from terminology, how to use tools properly, safety, files, on the ends of the files that you use. You need a handle on those. I mean, I never thought of this kind of stuff. The community's looking out for you. They're going to point it out, but don't be closed-minded about it. If you happen to start a YouTube channel, if you see that kind of comments or you come across them on my channel, kind of pay attention to those, because safety is important. Wear safety glasses. You get shards of metal in your glass, that's not going to feel, in your eyeballs, that's not going to feel good. But safety is really important. Terminology is very important when you're communicating with people. Learn how to read precision measuring, whether it's in metric or imperial. Most calipers are going to convert that for you. Learn how to use a micrometer. Get reference materials, or at least plan on getting some reference materials. Whether you get like a Machinist Ready reference handbook, a small one, or you go all out and get the Machinery's handbook. Now that Machinery's handbook is not a lathe instruction manual. What it is a guide, an industry standard set of rules around all things machinery, standards and all of that kind of stuff on how threads should be, diameters, when you're turning materials, your speeds and feeds, everything, anything you can think of is in that book. It's a valuable book. They're pricey if you want a new one. The information doesn't change much, so go on eBay, look for a used one. You can get them for 50 bucks. But you're going to want to be able to understand and learn how to use taps and dies and read those charts. So be prepared to learn. Don't think you're just going to whip some things in here and start turning and everything's going to work out. There's techniques that you need to learn. There's skills you need to learn. And the best way I've learned this year was starting this channel and having all you guys and gals commenting on my mistakes as well as my successes. It's been great. So that brings me to number 5. After a year of having this lathe, the 5th thing that I wanted to point out that I think is very important is although the temptation is going to be there to buy the cheapest, because you're going to want to buy so many tools and accessories, you're going to want to go out and buy the cheapest tooling, cheapest accessories you can find. That's going to be on an Amazon or eBay or Harbor Freight. Although many of these tools the quality can be fine, you can save a lot of money by doing that. Eventually you're going to get bit. I did. I won't go into it too much. People got annoyed with it, but the Pittsburgh tap and dies, I don't personally recommend them from Harbor Freight. What happens is, if you buy something and it ends up being such poor quality, when you're trying to learn, it takes away from the joy. It takes away from the learning experience, because it's adding so much frustration onto trying to use this tooling in the manners that you think they should be used, the way you've read and researched about it, you get advice from people, and the outcomes are just not working out. They're not coming out the way they're supposed to. The tooling is not functioning the way it should. it's just going to add frustration to your projects. If you buy the cheapest stuff you can, eventually you're going to get something that's so poor quality, you're going to be so frustrated using it, you're going to think, well, I don't know what I'm doing, and it's going to discourage you from getting out in the workshop and starting that next project. So in some cases, it's not better to buy cheaper. In a lot of cases it is. I've done it, I still do it, but I'm just throwing this advice out there. It's something that I learned kind of the hard way. I didn't lose a lot of money because it was cheap, but some of the tooling can be very frustrating to use. When you discover that, you're just going to need to suck it up, save a little extra money, buy some quality material, quality tooling that is, the same thing that you bought cheap, but get the quality version of it. Do some research, and you'll find that experience is 100 times better. That's been my case. There's been 2 or 3 different tooling options and sets that I bought from Harbor Freight that are just total crap. I should have never bought them. And one of them was a taps and dies, and the other was a measuring. I wanted a center finder for round stock, and I bought that thing. It was a little kit, and it was $7 or $8. I'm like, oh, this is cheap. It had burrs on it. The center finder point isn't in the center, so I mean, it's kind of not even functional. It's also like a compound square and things like that, but in the end, it was junk. I went to return it, and she said, well, it was on sale and it cost you $2.99. I said, I'll just keep the stupid thing. I got it. I'll probably never use the thing. And it was some real low grade aluminum they made it out of too. Anyway, some tools just aren't worth buying the cheapest you can find. Others you can get away with. But that brings me to the top 5 things. I hope that you found this information useful. Again, this is a summary of the top 5 things I've learned after having used this, learned throughout the year, and some of the lessons I've learned, and some of the things that I wanted to share with you all about what you might want to consider before you purchase this thing. This is my experience 1 year later. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. Hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I hope to see you on the next one.